versus the exceptional. Right? The mediocre versus the exceptional. Right? The mediocre just wants to do enough to get by. Right? I just want to do enough so I can get to, where it is that I'm going. And there's not inherently, at an individual level, anything wrong with that. We've all done that. I've done that. Everyone's done that at some moment in your life. Even the person that performs the optimum, at his or her optimum 99% of the time, you have off days, right? But the mediocre as herd mentality, right? The mediocre as the norm. That's the point, right? That's the point. The mediocre as the norm. It's Bart Simpson as normativized. It's Peter Griffin as normativized. We watch this and we laugh at these episodes. We laugh at these fictitious characters precisely because it's so absurd how mediocre and average and boring they are as characters. They're so boring that their boredom becomes entertaining. It becomes a source of enjoyment, right, in this very sort of cathartic sense. Because we are laughing at the regularity and the mundane events of their day-to-day fictitious lives, recognizing that we reflect that in our real lives, right? It's that recognition. It's that recognition that, wow, yeah, I basically spent my entire day, not knocking people, right, but just let's keep it real. I spent my entire day trolling around YouTube, trying to be smart and leave witty comments and show how smart I am, or being really mean and saying mean stuff. And then I visited Dr. Campbell and wasted some time engaging him in something that I didn't learn anything from. I didn't show any gratitude from having learned anything. I don't know how he feels about the situation. Didn't engage him. Now I'm gonna go troll around and then and then it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and then you go to bed and you do that for the rest of your life. A very mediocre, bland, boring existence. You have every right to live that type of life if you want to live that life. Unfortunately, you're on the wrong YouTube channel. We don't support that here, right? What we do here, we collectively, not even just me, right? It's like an army of, it's me and Secular Numinous and Ian Mathwiz and Complacency Among Us. It's we in that sense. It's synthetic fragments. We strive for excellence, right? We do homework when we don't have to do homework. We're studying when there's no need to study, right? Why? Not because we're looking to any end, but that's who we are, right? Because we want to be exceptional in what we do. It's not so that you can tell me that I'm exceptional. I don't need your accolade, right? It's so that I can be exceptional and that I can inspire others to be as exceptional, right? So we have problems with the mediocre, right? We're always going to be in conflict. The rationalists and the charlatans are always going to be fighting. It'll never stop. There's never going to be any peace. There's never going to be any peace because I can't tolerate stupidity, right? I can't tolerate, conversation for the sake of conversation. With family, of course, you do it, but in the public sector, as a public intellectual, as a public lecturer, I got to be about business. So if you want to talk about business, let's talk. Otherwise, Nietzsche's like, listen, this is draining, right? It's draining the force. It's draining the energy, right? Think about this, right? The herd versus the strong. It wants to drain the strength from the strong and independent so that they become herd, right? They drain that energy. That's what they do. They drain energy. Right? Suffering and underprivileged versus the fortunate. We don't have any money. You have so much money. Now you have to give it back to us, right? And then, of course, those who are fortunate get upset because the audacity for you to tell me that I have to. I would have, but now, just to spite you, I'm not. Right? Oh, but we need it, and give us, and give us. And then you give, and you give, and you give, and you give, and you give. And then, as Zizek says, and he's rightfully so, if you don't change the structural violence inherent within the community, there will never be a transformation of the community. All that's going to happen is false generosity in the Fourierian sense. People are going to be cutting checks and nothing transforms, right? Drain, economic drain, psychological drain, cognitive drain, physical drain, right? The mediocre versus the exceptional. Oh, look, you're trying to show off how smart you are, blah, blah, blah. I don't really care, right? Yeah, that's what I'm doing, right? And I'm trying to get other people to do exactly that. Right? You got people on YouTube who show off their muscles and how big and strong they are. You have people who show off their skills, right? Yeah, that's what this is about. It's about showmanship. That's exactly what this is about, right? And the idea that we are going to live our lives as mediocre individuals isn't going to happen, right? They drain the energy. The term it's controversial, I guess, if you say it. People, how do you know that? the Satanists would say that this is a psychic vampire, right? An individual who drains the psychic energy from another individual, right? And you're like, oh, I can't believe Satanists, right? But I mean, that's what the Satanists call it, a psychic vampire. It's a good phrase, right? It makes sense, right? Vampires drain blood, but they're not just draining your blood, biological. They're draining your psychic energy, right? Your cognitive energy, right? So the psychic vampire, the energy drainer, call them what you want to call them. They take all that energy just so that they can pull you back down into the abysmal herd, right? And I will have no parts of that. So, in Note 215, the three elements needed in the acquisition of exclusive power. I talked about this, not a dialectic, but this, what's the word I'm looking for? Interdependency. The three elements needed in the acquisition of exclusive power. I'm not going to write that whole thing down. One, right? So this is 274. This is 274, and now what we're doing is we're combining that with Note 215. And you're going to see how close they are. So 274, criteria. The attempt to pull exclusive power, to snatch exclusive power from people of reason, people of political might, of social might, to pull it to the theological sort of sacerdotal class, to the class of those who construct dogmatic moral edifices. The first was the oppressed of all kind, right? The second was the mediocre of all kind. And then the third was the discontent and sick. And you can see the overlap, right? You can see the overlap. I actually want to flip to 215 really quick, just so so I can jog my memory. Yeah, exclusive power. He says, 4 steps. They demand exclusive power and they get it. In Christianity, 3 elements must be distinguished: the oppressed of all kind, the mediocre of all kind, the discontent and sick of all kind. With the first element, Christianity fights against the political nobility and its ideals. This is what I was saying, right? That the moral tradition, the value system, is set to posit an impossible end. The end is perpetual improvement, which really latently posits an inherent deficiency, an inherent dissatisfaction, so that the individual moral agent, exercising whatever means he or she will never be able to arrive at a state of personal contentment, personal satisfaction, accomplishment, accolade. And if it is the case, by whatever happenstance, that despite the fact that they are devotees of this ideological paradigm, they will never be able to have a moment where they bask in their efforts. Because the second that they do that, they step outside of the herd, and then the herd pulls them back down. The oppressed of all kind, the mediocre, the sick of all kind. They drain that energy out of them. Stay in your place, remember who you are, don't be too prideful, don't be too haughty, blah, 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 blah. You know, oh, I'm sorry, okay, yeah, the energy drains, and whatever excellence that they had has been, has dissipated. And now they conform back to the herd mentality. And this is the idea of crabs in a bucket, right? One crab rises to the top, crabs pull him down. Now he's down and other crabs rise to the top and he pulls them down. So it's this perpetual crabs in a bucket mentality, to be really ghetto. But the idea on an ideological level is that this is all a function of the system. That's what the system, the ideological edifice is. The edifice of moral valuation, as understood in terms like this, is to posit an impossible end, which leads every moral agent to experience a very real sense of dissatisfaction. So, the herd instinct and its control of morality. This is going to be heavy, right? So the herd instinct and its control of morality. I don't know how deep I want to go. This is going to be crazy if I can do it right. We talk about morality. We talk about a moral valuation, and I'll put valuation. We talk about morality.